All right, the recording is going, and our board chair, Ms. LaPierre, is not present, and so our vice chair, Mr. Roberts, will be leading the meeting. Mr. Roberts.
Good morning. I am Matthew Roberts, Vice Chair of the Board for Barbers and Cosmetology. We will call the roll to determine whether a quorum is present. When your last name is called, please indicate you are present by stating here. Would the Executive Director please call the roll?
Acosta.
Here.
Dang.
Here. I'm sorry.
Thank you. Gillenshaw.
Here.
Hill. LaPierre. Macheo.
Here.
Mays. Quisenberry.
I am here.
Roberts.
Here.
Smith.
Here.
All right, Mr. Chair, there are 7 in attendance.
Okay, a quorum is present, and I call this meeting to order at 9:06 a.m. At this time, I'd like Mr. Kirshner to go over the changes we can expect in this virtual meeting. Mr. Kirshner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This board meeting is being recorded, and it will be made available to the public. A link to that will be found on the board's website after the meeting. Video for each board member is not required, but each board member must be audible to all the other members and the public who are on the call. So please do keep your microphone. You can keep it muted when you're not speaking, but when you are speaking, please do unmute your microphone. One thing that we have found to be very helpful is the closed captioning feature. So if you are participating on a computer or on a smartphone, on the bottom right-hand side of the screen, there is a turn on captions button. And if you select that button, we found that these closed captions are very effective. Oftentimes, when it's difficult to hear someone through their microphone or through our speakers, the closed captioning works very well. So you may want to use that feature. If the meeting has to be suspended for any broadcast interruption, or I should say if, the meeting will have to be suspended if there is a broadcast interruption until public access is restored. So should an interruption occur, you can please immediately contact staff. You can email the board at barbercosmo@dpor.virginia.gov or call the board at 804-367-8509. All votes will be roll call, alphabetical by last name. Each board member must voice your vote with an aye, a nay, or abstain after your name is called. And I will periodically ask any members of the public or licensees that are in attendance to type their names in the chat field. And again, that is to make sure that we have an accurate record of who is present, as well as we are able to call on licensees or the public that wish to speak to the board. And Mr. Chair, one last piece of business. I do apologize. I should have done that at the January board meeting, but we do have a new staff member that I need to introduce to you. And that is Joseph Crook. He is our regulatory operations administrator. He started with us right at the end of right at the end of December, and is taking over my old position with the board. So we're very happy to have Joe with us now. And you will be interacting with him from time to time, especially once we start meeting in person again. All right, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, the first order of business is the approval of the agenda. If the board members would please turn to the first page of their electronic agenda. Mr. Kirschner, are there any amendments to the agenda?
There are no amendments to the agenda.
Steve,
Yes.
there is one amendment. The prima facie case, that individual has requested an IFF, so that one has been removed from the agenda.
Okay, thank you, Kathy.
That's, I think, case number 9 on the agenda. Yeah, it's item number 9 on the agenda.
Is there a motion to adopt the agenda?
I make that motion.
Is there a second?
I second the motion.
Is there any discussion? The motion is that the agenda be approved. Mr. Kirschner, please call the vote.
Acosta,
Aye.
Dang,
Yes.
Gillenshaw,
Aye.
Mateo,
Yes.
Quisenberry,
Yes.
Roberts,
Aye.
Smith,
Aye.
there are 7 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative.
The motion is adopted. Next, we will take up the minutes. Board for Barbers and Cosmetology meeting, January 11th, 2021. The minutes begin on page 4 of the electronic agenda. Are there any amendments to the minutes? Is there a motion to adopt the minutes?
I move to adopt the minutes.
Is there a second?
I second the motion.
Is there any discussion? The motion is that the minutes be approved. Mr. Kirschner, please call the vote.
Acosta,
Aye.
Dang,
Aye.
Gillenshaw,
Aye.
Mateo,
Aye.
Quisenberry,
Yes.
Roberts,
Aye.
Smith,
Aye.
thank you. There are 7 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative.
The motion is adopted. The next item on the agenda is public comment. Mr. Kirschner, please introduce the first public commenter.
All right, and Mr. Chair, we did not have anyone sign up for public comment. I would note that there do appear to be several members of the public that are on the call that don't appear to be here for a case. So I would ask if anyone is here from the public that would like to speak to the board, if you could type your name in the chat field and we'll give you an opportunity to speak with them. All right, Mr. Chair, it does not appear that at this time anyone wishes to speak to the board.
All right, thank you, Mr. Kirschner. We will now take up the disciplinary cases. We will now take up case number 2016-03064, Kim Tran. The summary and recommendations for this case can be found on page 33 of the electronic agenda. Mr. Kirschner, can you please explain why this case is being brought back to the board?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. This case was heard by the board at the last meeting in January, and this was a disciplinary case. And Ms. Tran was actually on the call and was attempting to participate, but could not get the audio to work on her call. And because of that, she didn't have a chance to speak to the board. We were not aware that she was on the call. And so she did not get to have any input and speak to the board directly. So we did think it was appropriate to bring this back to the board for you to reconsider and receive comments from Ms. Tran.
Thank you, Mr. Kirschner. Is there a motion?
And Mr. Chair, if I may, just to clarify the process for this, so we would need a motion to reconsider the case, and if that is approved, then this would be handled the same way any other disciplinary case would handle. So the motion initially would be just to reconsider the case.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Kirschner. Is there a motion to reconsider this case?
I make that motion.
Is there a second?
I make the motion to second.
Is there
Or
any?
to second.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Gillinshaw. Is there any discussion? Okay, the motion is to reconsider case number 2016-03064. Mr. Kirschner, please call the vote.
Acosta,
Aye.
Dang,
Aye.
Gillenshaw,
Aye.
Macheo,
Aye.
Quisenberry,
Yes.
Roberts,
Aye.
Smith.
Aye.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. There are 7 in the affirmative and 0 in the negative.
Okay, the motion is adopted. Okay, we will take up case number 2016-03064, Kim Tran. Is Ms. Tran here to speak to this case?
And Mr. Chair, she is on the call. And we can give her a moment to unmute her microphone so she can participate.
Okay. Also, Mr. Kirschner, Ms. Dang has her hand up. Is that intentional, or does she have a question? Or an accident, or does she have a question?
No, I think maybe let I figure it out here.
Okay.
Sorry. Just technical.
Just want to make sure.
Yeah, thank you.
Ms. Tran, are you with us?
And Ms. Tran, showing here that you have your microphone muted. If you are able to unmute your microphone, and then you should be able to speak to the board.
And also, Ms. Tran, you'll have 5 minutes to address the board. Mr. Kirschner will notify you when your time expires. Also, I need to remind all speakers, you must speak specifically in reference to the summary of this case. This is not a forum to present new evidence. All evidence should have been presented at the informal fact-finding hearing. When you begin, please unmute and identify yourself for the record. Ms. Tran, you may begin.
Yes, and Ms. Tran, you may need to hit the *6 button to mute or unmute your phone.
Hello? Hello?
Yes, we can hear you now.
My name Kim Tran. I don't want to do things wrong. It is not my attention to do wrong. I'm sorry.
Ms. Tran, do you have anything else to say to the board?
I'm sorry.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Tran. Is there a motion concerning the violation in this case?
I make the motion that we accept the recommendation.
Is there a second to the motion?
I second the motion.
Is there any discussion?
Yes. Should that motion have been to accept, yes, that there is a violation? Is that what the motion is?
Yes. Mr. Chair, the motion would be to accept the recommendation that there is a violation.
Okay, thank you. Is there any additional discussion? Okay, the motion is to accept the recommendation that there is a violation in this case. Mr. Kirshner, please call the vote.
Acosta,
Aye.
Dang,
Aye.
Gillenshaw,
Aye.
Macheo,
No. Or sorry, I apologize.
okay, thank you. Quisenberry,
Yes.
Roberts,
Aye.
Smith,
Aye.
Mr. Vice Chair, there are 7 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative.
Thank you, Mr. Kirshner. Okay, the motion is adopted that there were violations in this case. Is there a motion concerning the sanctions in this case?
I move that we accept the recommendation of the sanctions.
Is there a second?
I second the motion.
Thank you. Or is there any discussion? Okay, the motion is to accept the recommended sanction in this case. Mr. Kirshner, would you please call the vote?
Acosta,
Aye.
Dang,
Aye.
Gillenshaw,
Aye.
Macheo,
No.
Quisenberry,
Yes.
Roberts,
Aye.
Smith.
Aye.
Mr. Vice Chair, there are 6 in the affirmative, 1 in the negative. The motion is adopted.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Kirshner. This time I will recuse myself from the next 2 cases.
And Mr. Quisenberry, since we both our chair and vice chair are unable to participate, Mr. Quisenberry has volunteered to assist us with the 2 disciplinary cases.
Yes. Okay, the board will now take up the disciplinary cases. We will take up case number 2016-03326, Hyan T. Nguyen. The summary and recommendation can be found on page 157 of the electronic agenda. So is there anyone present to speak to this case?
Yes, so Mr. Chair, I believe that Hen Nguyen has called in. There's another individual, Joy Regis. Sorry if I'm not pronouncing that correctly, who's also on the call on behalf of Ms. Nguyen. Both of those individuals participated in the IFF and would be eligible to speak to the board for 5 minutes. And Mr. Chair, if I may Mr. Quisenberry, if I may make a recommendation, if Ms. Nguyen is able to unmute her microphone, and maybe we could have her go first, and then Ms. Regis.
Sure.
Hi, can you hear us?
Yes.
Yes, so my name is Hak Nguyen, and I'm her daughter, and I was also at the hearing last time. And is it okay if I speak for my mom, because she's been like really sick and she can't really talk right now? But Mom, you want to say?
Yes. Hi, em Hiền Nguyễn.
So is it okay if I speak for her?
Yes.
Yes. I am sorry, everybody, but I don't know. I get now. I want to keep the license.
We just want to apologize for
I'm sorry.
what happened, and it wasn't her intention to break the laws, but now she knows that it is wrong to do, and she just wants the situation to be resolved because her health has been declining since she got the case, and she just really wants to resolve it and keep it going and keep working to support me through colleges and my siblings and my family. And that's it.
Is there anything else?
No.
Okay, thank you so much. Is there a motion concerning the violations in this case?
Mr. Quisenberry, I'm sorry, if I may, I know that Ms. Regis was also on the call and had participated. So I don't know if she wants to participate any further or not.
May I speak? I have just a short statement. I want to thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak about my dear friend, Miss Nguyen. I met her over 10 years ago. I'm sorry, I get a little emotional, when she first arrived in this country. At that time, she wasn't able to speak English well or write it, but we became good friends right away, and I am a trusted family friend. As the summary has shared, when she first came into this country, she received and acted upon some very bad advice from close family members. It was a mistake that she has acknowledged. She has since severed her relationship with those family members, and that happened over 2 years ago, before any of this came up. She is a working mother who has already put one child through college at George Mason and has 2 more enrolled in colleges. She's become a U.S. citizen. She and her husband, who is also a citizen, own their home, pay a mortgage, and are well liked in the neighborhood. The fine that Mr. Roberts recommended is compassionate for this working mother. and Ms. Nguyen acknowledges that and will pay the fine. It is the loss of the license that is devastating. On her own, she went into the district and she did pass the nail technician exam on her own. And that was just in the last few months. She wanted to prove that she could pass the exam and that she could get a license, and she did get the license. She was hoping to have that license transferred over to Virginia. The loss of the license would be devastating to this family. She has acknowledged, understand that she made a mistake when she was in a vulnerable position, and she's only looking to make restitution and move forward. Thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you. Is there a motion concerning the violation? There was one count in this case.
I make the motion to accept that there was a violation.
Okay, is there a second to the motion?
I second the motion.
Okay, so the motion is that there was a violation in this case. So, Mr. Kirschner, would you, is there any discussion first? If there's no discussion, Mr. Kirschner, would you please call the roll?
Acosta.
Aye.
Dang.
Aye.
Gillenshaw.
Aye.
Macheo.
Aye.
Quisenberry.
Yes.
Roberts. And Smith.
Aye.
There are 6 in the affirmative, and the motion passes.
Thank you, Mr. Kirschner. Is there a motion concerning the sanctions in this case?
I make the motion that we accept the sanctions that were recommended.
Thank you, Ms. Gillenshaw. Is there a second to that motion?
I second the motion.
Thank you. So is there any discussion? If no discussion, the motion is to accept the sanctions recommended. So all in favor of the motion, Mr. Kirschner, would you please call the roll?
Acosta.
Aye.
Dang.
Aye.
Gillenshaw.
Aye.
Macheo.
Aye.
Quisenberry.
Yes.
Smith.
Yes.
All right, there are 6 in the affirmative, and the motion passes.
Thank you. Okay, we will now take up case number 2016-03-417. This is Son Yusan. And so the summary and recommendation for this case can be found on page 261 of the electronic agenda. Is there anyone to speak to this case?
And Mr. Quisenberry, my understanding is that there is someone on the call to speak to this case. So Mr. Song, I believe it is, would you be able to unmute your phone? You should be able to do that by hitting *6 to participate in the meeting.
And I would like to remind our speaker that he will have 5 minutes to speak. And also, he must speak specifically in reference to the summary of the case. And so this is not the forum where to present any new evidence that should have been presented at the IFF hearing. When you begin, please identify yourself for the record. You may now begin. Are you there?
We get Mr. Tae Song. Are you able to unmute your phone and participate? And Mr. Quisenberry, it does appear that Mr. Song, who is the licensee's attorney, is on the call, but for whatever reason, he's not able to unmute and speak to the board. So if we want to give him a minute to try to resolve the technical difficulty, I'll kind of leave that to your prerogative. Otherwise, I would say if we're not able to resolve that, and since they do wish to participate, the board could simply pass on this case for this meeting, and we'll pick it up again at the next one.
Mm-hmm. That would be my suggestion, is because it would probably have to be reconsidered anyway, that we just pass on this case today. Do I need a motion for that?
No, we'll. My understanding is we can just pull it from the case. It looks like board counsel is on the call. Ms. P, would you agree we need a motion to pass on this case?
Yes. And well, I wonder if he could come back towards the end of the agenda. That might be an option. Otherwise, pass to the next meeting.
Okay.
So should we just possibly just postpone this till later in our meeting?
Yeah. Why don't we do that? Postpone this one, move it to the end of the agenda, and we'll circle back around, and hopefully by that point, Mr. Song will be able to participate.
Very good, Dan. So I will now turn the meeting back over to our the chairperson, Mr. Roberts.
Thank you, Mr. Quisenberry. The board will now take up the consent orders on the agenda. Is anyone present to speak regarding a consent order? Seeing that there is no one present who wishes to address a consent order before the board, is there a motion to consider all of the consent orders on today's agenda together as a block?
I make that motion.
Is there a second to the motion?
I second the motion.
Any discussion? Mr. Kirsch, please call the vote.
Acosta,
Aye.
Dang,
Aye.
Gillenshaw,
Aye.
Macheo,
Aye.
Quisenberry,
Yes.
Roberts,
Aye.
Smith.
Aye.
There are 7 in the affirmative and none in the negative.
Okay, the motion is to adopt the consent orders as a block. Mr. Kirschner, do I have to read the individual case numbers, or can I leave it at the block?
And then, Mr. Vice Chair, I do believe that that motion was to adopt the consent orders. as a block. And Kathy, can you confirm, was that motion to adopt the consent orders as a block?
Yes, it was.
Okay, so the consent orders have been adopted now.
Sure. Okay, we will now take up for 2020 02772. Christy Cook. The summary and recommendations for this case begin on page 567 of the electronic agenda. This is a licensing case involving a license application. The recommendation is to license anyone present to speak to this case.
And Mr. Vice Chair, Ms. Tuck is present on the call. We want to give her an opportunity to unmute her phone.
Also, I need to remind all speakers must speak specifically in reference to the summary of this case. This is not a forum to present new evidence. Evidence should have been presented in a fact-finding hearing. When you begin, please unmute and identify yourself for the record. You may begin.
And Ms. Tuck, if you are having difficulty unmuting your phone and we cannot hear you right now, you may need to hit the *6 in order to unmute your phone.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
You can hear me?
Yes.
ma'am.
Okay. I'm asking that you would please consider my application for approval. I can tell you without a doubt, I'm sorry, I don't mean to get emotional, but I'm incredibly remorseful for my actions. I was not raised to be dishonest, and I have disappointed myself and my family. If you approve my application, my daughter will allow me to work in her hair salon. I ask for a second chance to make my family proud and to be an asset to my community. I have always been kind, caring, and an honest person, and I hate that my actions did not show that. I just ask for approval that I can show that I'm a better person and that my actions will continue to show that I am a better person. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Is there a motion concerning this case?
I make a motion that we accept the recommendation by approving the application.
Is there a second to the motion?
I second the motion.
Any discussion? Okay, the motion is to accept the recommendation to approve the nail technician's application. Mr. Kirshner, would you call for the vote?
Acosta,
Aye.
Dang,
Aye.
Gillenshaw,
Aye.
Macheo,
Aye.
Quisenberry,
Aye.
Roberts,
Aye.
Smith,
Aye.
and Mr. Vice Chair, there are 7 in the affirmative and none in the negative.
Thank you, Mr. Kirshner. The motion is adopted for the approval of the nail technician license application. We will now take up case number 2021-00364, Anthony Dwayne Leonard. The summary and recommendations for this case begin on page 640 of the electronic agenda. Is anyone present to speak to this case? A motion concerning this case.
Could you repeat yourself, Mr. Roberts?
Motion in this case?
Make a motion that we accept the recommendation.
Is there a second to the motion?
I second.
Any discussion? Motion is to accept the recommendation and approve the Barber application for Anthony Dwayne Leonard. The person, would you please call for the vote?
Acosta,
Aye.
Dang,
Aye.
Gillenshaw,
Aye.
Macheo,
Aye.
Quisenberry,
Aye.
Roberts,
Aye.
Smith.
Aye.
There are 7 in the affirmative and none in the negative.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The motion is adopted. Approval of the Barber application. Next, we will take up case number 2021-00365, Hair Studio. The summary and recommendation for this case begin on page 732 of the electronic agenda. This is a licensing case involving cosmetology salon license application. Is anyone present to speak to this case?
And Mr. Roberts, if I may, just a couple things. One, there was an individual on Devon Dance who is here to speak to the case. And also, it does look like we might be getting a little bit of feedback. So if, Ms. Stang, are you able to mute your microphone? That might clear up some of the feedback we're getting. All right, Mr. Dance, are you still on the call?
Yes, yes, sir. Are you guys
Okay.
able to hear me?
Yes. Before you begin, I need to remind all speakers that you must speak specifically in reference to the summary of this case. This is not a forum to present new evidence. All evidence should have been presented at the informal fact-finding hearing. When you begin, please unmute and identify yourself for the record, and you may begin.
Good morning, you guys. My name is Devon Dance, representing on behalf of Eminent Hair Studio. I just want to just give a brief statement prior to the board rendering their hearing. I just wanted to start by just saying when you're owning being your own boss. Of course, you're the boss and no one's kind of looking over your shoulder. So as an entrepreneur, I apologize. I prepared. I just wrote a paragraph or two to present my statement. So as an entrepreneur, you have to learn to hold yourself accountable, and you would, or you would not succeed. I do realize that in my past, is my past, and I do accept. However, it does not hold me back, from pursuing a better future, and showing my character, and change. You only have so many minutes, and hours of the day. So I do value my time every day, by doing less of those things, so that I have more time to do more things that's giving me better results. Rehabilitating oneself with outpatient treatment, continue my education while maintaining employment, and networking amongst, others for small business, being productive daily. Being honest and good moral character within your business will drive success with your small business and customer base. And customer service goes a long way, in my opinion, with being in business and being successful. So again, I appreciate the opportunity to present myself, contribute to my community to create a positive impact while pursuing my long-term goal. Thank you.
Okay. Excuse me. Thank you. Thank you very much. Is there a motion concerning this case?
I move that we accept the recommendation.
Is there a second to the motion?
I
I
second.
second the motion.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Okay, the motion is to accept the recommendation that the cosmetology salon license application be approved. Mr. Kirsten, would you please call for the vote?
Acosta,
Aye.
Dang, and Ms. Dang, sorry, you are muted, so we weren't able to hear your response.
I'm sorry, I unmuted and
Thank you. Gillenshaw,
Aye.
Mateo,
Aye.
Quisenberry,
Aye.
Roberts,
Aye.
Smith.
Aye.
There are 7 in the affirmative and 0 in the negative.
Excellent. Thank you, Mr. Kirstner. The motion is adopted for the approval of the cosmetology salon license application. Congratulations.
Thank
you. Mr. Kirstner, are there any other announcements before the meeting concludes?
Well, Mr. Vice Chair, if we can return to the disciplinary case that we passed over, Sun Sohn, and we would ask that you would recuse yourself, turn off your microphone and camera while this case is considered. And just to let the board know, it does look like the attorney for this licensee was not able to unmute his phone to participate in the case. One of the things that you'll need to balance when you consider tabling this to the next board meeting is the licensee is entitled to a case decision within 90 days of the IFF hearing. If they do not have a case decision, they can request one, and then you would have an additional 30 days to actually have a case decision. So this, essentially what that means is there's 120 days between the time that the IFF occurs until the time that if you haven't made a decision, then the case would be decided in their favor. So in this particular case, the IFF was on January 11th. And if you'll bear with me just one moment, I want to get you the exact 120 days so that you can make an informed decision about how this would proceed if you don't make a decision today. Okay, so the 100 days would pass on May 11th, and your next scheduled board meeting is about a week after that, May 17th. So if you let's say tabled this case to the next meeting, in theory, if they wanted to, they could request a case decision before that you would have to provide before then, in which case you'd either have to have a special meeting to consider that case, or otherwise it would be decided in their favor. The alternative would just be to go ahead and vote on it today, and then if they do want to participate, to bring it back like we did at the beginning of this meeting, have a reconsider, and then take a look at it again then. So it's really up to the board which direction that you would want to go. Either way, you'll have to make a motion, either to table it to the next meeting and sort of risk exceeding that 120 days, or just voting on it and then possibly having to reconsider it in May.
Mm-hmm.
Any questions about that?
Yeah. So would I need a motion from the board in order for us to proceed with the case today, or can we just go ahead and proceed with that?
Yeah, so you would need if you wanted to proceed with the disciplinary action, you would need a motion regarding the violations in the case.
Okay, so just proceed then, like we always would.
Yes.
Okay, so is there a motion concerning the violations in this case?
I make a motion to accept that there was a violation in this case.
Is there a second?
I second it.
Okay, is there any discussion? So if not, the motion is that there was a violation in this case. So Mr. Kirshner, would you please call for the vote?
Acosta.
Aye.
Dang.
Aye.
Gillenshaw.
Aye.
Macheo.
Aye.
Quisenberry.
Aye.
Roberts. Oh, apologies. Smith.
Aye.
All right, so there are 6 in the affirmative, finding violations for both counts in this case.
So that motion is adopted. So now is there a motion concerning the sanctions in this case? And once again, this can be found on page 265 and 266. So I'm asking for a motion concerning the sanctions of this case.
I make a motion to accept the sanctions.
Is there a second to that motion?
I second the motion.
Okay. Is there any discussion? If no discussion, the motion is to accept the sanctions, the recommended sanctions in this case. So Mr. Kirshner, will you please call for the vote?
Acosta.
Aye.
Dang.
Aye.
Gillenshaw.
Aye.
Macheo. Macheo. Yeah, Mr. Macheo, are you able to hear us? Quisenberry,
Aye.
Smith,
Aye.
right? And if you'll bear with me just one moment. And Mr. Mateo, are you able to hear us? There are 5 in the
Aye.
affirmative. Oh,
Aye.
thank you, Mr. Mateo. So that is a aye.
Yes.
All right, thank you. All right, there are 6 in the affirmative, none in the negative, so the motion is adopted.
Very good. Thank you very much. I'll now turn back over to our Vice Chair, Mr. Roberts.
Thank you, Mr. Quisenberry. Sorry, Mr. Kirsten, I made a note to bring that item back and overlooked it. Mr. Kirsten, are there any other announcements before the meeting concludes?
The one thing that I would say is we do appreciate everyone's participation in these virtual meetings. I'm hoping that we are trending in the direction of being able to move back, excuse me, back in person, possibly as soon as the May meeting. And of course, if we do return in person, we'll have more of an expanded agenda with some of our reports, as well as policy items to bring before you.
Mr. Kirshner, could I ask Ms. Webster a question? Is she still with us?
Yep, I'm still here.
Okay. My question is, since we have the new testing company, are the candidates in doing the practical examination doing the same task list, the same task, performing the same task in the examination that they had done previously with the former company that we used?
Yes, that
So
hasn't changed.
Nothing has changed on that exam.
No, not at all. Because we are still using the NIC exam, so nothing has changed in that. The only thing that has changed was the vendor.
Well, very good. I know sometimes some of those tests were optional, so I didn't know whether we had dropped any of those or had kept them all.
Yep.
Thank you.
No problem.
And Mr. Quisenberry, one of the things that the pandemic put on hold for us is the NIC has actually approached us asking whether Virginia wants to incorporate some new sections of the practical exam that they have developed. If I remember correctly, it's things like threading, sugaring, and some additional components like that. That we've put on hold because we did want to convene a subcommittee of the board to sort of make that determination. So that will actually be one of those policy type items that we pick up again once we start meeting in person.
Any other announcements or discussion? Okay, there being no other business to be brought before the board, I declare this meeting adjourned at 10:03 a.m.